jokes are weird things because they can they can make fun of anything. You can you can attack the sacred cow when you have a joke, and that can make people feel weird and uncomfortable, and it can attack like people's personal identities and make them think about the world in a different way. All the while it's just saying, guys, it's just a joke, don't worry about it, don't take it seriously, it's fine. um but reality is reality. Everything, you can't just say no offense and people won't be offended. Like, you can't go to someone and say, you're ugly, oh, it was just a joke, it was just a joke. Like, that person is probably going to be like, hmm. And the thing about jokes is you have to balance it. It has to be funnier than it is offensive. And different people will find different things more or less funny and more or less offensive. And so some people will be like, that was outrageous, he should never say that. And then like throw tomatoes at them. Meanwhile, someone else like right beside them is laughing at it because they think it's really hilarious. They don't find that offensive at all. And that's one of the reasons why we need free speech, because otherwise we just have no comedians, because everyone would find something that a comedian says more offensive than they find funny. And so then they'd be like, kill him, put him in prison or something. I don't know, whatever people think. And words, they can cause people to do negative things, or they can give people an excuse to do a negative thing. But one thing that a lot of people don't really understand, or maybe I'm just wrong, is that words, they can like spark something, but it is the person who is doing the thing, it's their fault for doing it. They are the one using their free will to decide to do it. Like, for example, if you say something like, oh, you're fat, to a random stranger, and the random stranger takes it really to heart, and they're like, oh, I'm so fat, and they get like an eating disorder, and then they like die of starvation, then yes, that stranger said that they are fat, and that was like rude, and they shouldn't have said that. But the person who got the disorder, it's it's partially their fault. Like, as long as they have mental faculty, and their IQ is like above 100, they're able to make decisions. They're like, well, that person's a stranger. A fair reaction would be to say, you're a stranger, you don't know me, why would you say something like that? That's rude. And then you ask someone else who you know, and you ask them, hey, am I fat? And then you go and you like weigh yourself, and you look at like averages of how tall you are versus how much you weigh, and you're like, this is, and then you're like, okay, maybe I'm a little bit like overweight mildly. So then you go to either a doctor, or you go to some sort of book that says, if these are some healthy diets you can do to slowly lose weight in a healthy way, and then you do that. That'd be the reasonable thing to do. But instead, you do the unreasonable thing. Um, and that is a choice. That is what you're choosing to do. Or if someone says, you should totally jump off this bridge, guys. This would be so funny. And then you do it, then that's your fault. You're the one who jumped off the bridge. It's not his fault for saying you should jump off the bridge, and then it's not like he pushed you off the bridge. He just told you to do it. Because words are just like sounds that come out of your mouth. But we treat them like they're magic. We treat them like it's a wizard casting a spell on you and forcing you to do something. But it's not. And it's the same idea with hate speech. If you say, I hate you, I hate this group of people, and you are in the group of people, so I hate you, then yeah, that's hateful speech, but it's not literally hurting the person. All it's doing is just communicating the idea of hatred, which is, wrong and dumb, but that's not like it should be illegal. What it should be is that you go like, you're wrong, you're stupid, I don't agree with you, and you tell some people about it, and then they tell some other people about it, and then generally people will be like, that's wrong, And then, the people close to that person will like talk to them about it and stuff like that. And they'll get better, hopefully. But if you just discriminate against them because they discriminate against you, well, that's stupid. Obviously, that's going to make them more extreme, and it's not going to help anything. If you've got like a racist person, when they say something racist, the solution is not to go, "You're a racist," rah! And get angry at them, because all that's going to make them do is defend themselves. That's what humans do. When they get attacked, they defend themselves, and so then their ideas will become strengthened. And that all ties back into joking, because someone could make a racist joke, and then they could say, "Well, it was just a joke. I don't actually think that." And then someone else could be super offended by that and say, "That is not okay." And someone else could say, "No, it's fine because it was funny." And so there'd be a discourse, an argument. Well, it doesn't have to be an argument, but hopefully just a discourse, and people will talk about it. And one thing about joking is that it sort of weakens an idea. It makes you go, "That's ridiculous." Like, if you make fun of racism, and it seems like you're being racist, but like you're making fun of it, then the people watching you, if they are racist, they'll go, "Wait, that's a funny idea. Why do I think that? It's kind of funny." And so they'll rethink it, and they won't be defensive. That's the thing. A joke, it pushes you softly. It cooks you slowly. It slowly turns up the heat of a cauldron, and you're the frog inside of it being boiled alive, and you don't realize, you don't jump out. So, if anything could stop someone from being a racist, it could be jokes, and you wouldn't know. And so all you're saying is, "Oh, that's offensive, that's horrible, and that's something that no one should ever say." Meanwhile, the effect of it could be positive, and you would have no clue. But you find it offensive, so it's not okay. Another thing that ties into all of this is that you do not understand what other people are going through. I know it's it's so overused, but like, you could be in a group of the most marginalized and have an amazing life, and people will be like, "Oh, they're marginalized." Like, if they're leftist, if it's a leftist and they're looking at, a disabled black um, lesbian woman, they'll say, "Oh, they're so marginalized." But that woman could be having an amazing life, could be super happy, could be not feeling the effects of it at all. And then they could look at a straight white male, um, everything's going for him, right? But he could be having a horrible time because people don't exist in groups. And so when we make these jokes that defy our sacred cow of this group is oppressed and this group is not, then we allow people to see into their mind or into some sort of truth, because all funny jokes have some element of truth in them that you don't really expect. That's one of the things that makes jokes funny, is that there's a truth that you don't expect, but it's there. And so then you think about it and you're like, "Oh," kind of like a paradox. At first it seems like this shouldn't be true, but there is some sort of truth in it. So you shouldn't try to restrict people when they make a joke. You should try to understand the joke and think about what effects the joke has. Think about how it affects you and your thoughts, and what about your thoughts are wrong. And imagine whoever you think is hurting, are they laughing? Are they having fun? And whoever you think it is making more extreme, think about it from their extreme viewpoint. Think, how would this make them think about the world? Could it actually be making them less extreme, because it might be.